A293CF Moreno Valley.
Welcome to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, created and hosted by Scott Knudsen, to explore the crossroads of horses and business. Now here's your host, Scott Knudsen.
Hi, and welcome to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen. Whether you're listening to us on the radio, on NBC, our affiliate out in California, KCAA, or watching our podcast on one of our many platforms, we appreciate you. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Cowboy Entrepreneur. Today we have a very fun show for you. He was a referral, and I'm so glad he was, and we're going to tell that story here shortly. He is the founder and president of TK Pro Rodeo, and his name is Tyler Kijac. Tyler, thank you so much for being on the show.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Scott.
Man, I was in Las Vegas at the national finals, and Dr. Anderson was talking to me, and he was like, "Man, I got the perfect guy for your show." He's a hard worker, and he's coming up in the industry, and we talked about you, and so that's high praise coming from Dr. Anderson.
Yeah, no, that means a lot. He's been instrumental to really. He's been a part of the whole rodeo company from the birth. So,
oh wow,
good feed.
Yeah, Total Feeds is great, man. That's what we feed as well. And so let's talk about you. Let's let the audience know you, the ones that don't. Let's talk. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Michigan, Union City, Michigan. It's the southwest part of Michigan. And anybody from Michigan, they use their hand as a map to say where they're from. So I'm right in the lower palm. But I was still, I graduated high school. So I spent a lot of time up there. It's cold.
Wow, man. That's awesome, man. Well, so did you know in Michigan growing up you wanted to be in the rodeo industry or be your own entrepreneur boss?
Well, I knew I didn't want a real job. I knew. Yeah, awesome. I rodeoed, and I grew up on a small farm there, a 100-acre farm, and we put up commercial square bales of hay. And so I knew some things for certain. I knew I didn't want to touch another square bale of hay for the rest of my life, and I knew I didn't want a real job. And so rodeoing was what I thought I was going to, pursue full-time as a contestant. And, I received a full ride rodeo scholarship to go to college. And so college took me to Wyoming, Powell, Wyoming, Northwest College. And when I got there, I realized I didn't like school near as much as rodeo. So rodeo was still the constant for me. And I decided I wanted to rodeo full time. And so growing up in Michigan, the IPRA, all of my heroes were IPRA cowboys. And so I bought my rookie card, and I made the IFR my first year, and in the bull riding, I always was a team roper as well, but bull riding was always my better event, and that's kind of what I went with. And while rodeoing, I wound up in Oklahoma. I just loved it in Oklahoma.
That's awesome, man. Well, explain what IPRA is, maybe to someone that's listening that doesn't know what that means. They want to start following.
So the IPRA is a sanctioning body. They're based out of Oklahoma City, but their rodeos are, all over the country, including Canada. But it stands for International Professional Rodeo Association. And the World Finals, their NFR, their Super Bowl is in Guthrie, Oklahoma at the Lazy E. And it's the third week of January, second or third January. Don't quote me on that, but
it's coming up.
Yeah, no, coming up. And like I say, I grew up, I cut my teeth, watching the IRA Cowboys and the Michigan, Indiana, Ohio area. That's what led me to buying my IPRA permit.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I know you made the finals, I believe, 3 times. Isn't that correct?
Yep. I got to go 3 times, and then I always held a secondary card where I won Rookie of the Year. I really enjoyed it, I got my feet wet in the PBR. I got to go to the Velocity Finals, the only, and I kind of got wrecked out. And that was right there at kind of the turning point when I decided that I really had always had an interest in the rodeos, like behind the scenes. I always caught myself, the stock contractors growing up, I had to drive them nuts because I always wanted to know like why they did things and the production and organization of it. I always had a hunger for learning more about it.
That's awesome, man. That's cool that you were able to participate in the sport, but at the same time start creating your future and your business model.
Well, I think it gives a unique perspective. I mean, to be a quality stock contractor, it's about selling tickets and entertaining fans, but it's also about pleasing the contestants, and it's hard to please if you don't know what they want,
Right. Absolutely, man. And those guys follow you. They see you're the stock contractor, bro. They'll go enter.
Right.
Because they know it's going to be great stock, it's going to be a great event, and they have a chance for more money.
Right.
So I love that. We'll talk more about that, how that goes. And I know your social media is TK Pro Rodeo on Facebook. What about your website?
Yeah, tkprorodeo.com. And it's got our partners and stuff on there, and it's got our schedule. We haven't released this year's schedule just yet, but I'm excited for 2023. It's like I know what's in store. I've got a lot of, for sure stuff back, and I'm so excited to release it to the public,
That's awesome, man. I love the pictures. I spent a lot of time on there, knowing about the magazine, Performance Horse Magazine, and the show. And I love how you take people behind the scenes to what a stock contractor does and knowing the animals and the care for the animals.
Sure.
And I appreciate that as a Western guy. It's important to get those stories out there and those pictures out there for sure.
So. No, it's all. I like showing that. I mean, it seems like on TV, the Cowboy Channel's been instrumental in letting people on the recliner go to San Antonio, go to Houston, Cheyenne, Big Rodeo. They're iconic, but still, yet it seems like the missing link is like whenever I'm watching it, I'm like, I want to see what the Vold's Ranch is like. Like I want to see what they decided to keep back for their mares and why they're picking this stud and that's stuff that interests me. And so I just think to myself, there's got to be more people that want to see that stuff.
Absolutely. And what's going on in Jay, Oklahoma?
Right.
Where you're based out of now. So how did you pick Jay, Oklahoma?
So, my wife, she grew up in Jay, Oklahoma. That's not where we met. I guess to rewind a smidge there, while rodeoing, I had the family farm in Michigan still. And, my family, my grandparents on my dad's side passed away. I never even got to meet them. And so my dad kind of raised me on his own at that place. My mom and dad weren't together and worked a lot. But I always had the family farm too. I always thought I'd fall back on it. I could go and rodeo and then, if I don't make it, I fall back on the family farm and I guess buck them square bills that I said I'd never touch. And in the midst of rodeoing, I believe I was probably 19 or 20, somewhere in there. Things got tight at the farm and my dad lost the ranch to the bank. They foreclosed on it.
Wow.
I was virtually homeless, but when you're rodeoing, you're living in a van anyhow. So, I took everything that I had and I just mingled around Oklahoma and I just entered rodeo after rodeo after rodeo until I come across a little piece of property in Slick, Oklahoma. And I said, man, that would be the perfect spot if that guy would lease it to me. It had a trailer house on it that you could see the concrete slab through the holes in the floor. But it had a little shack of a horse barn and it had a rough shell of a pole barn. And I thought, man, I could like train some horses here or something, make some ends meet and lay some roots down. And that's what I did. So I'm not a carpenter by any means. My dad joked and said the only thing that I knew how to do was swing a rope and ride bulls because I was completely over my head on the carpentry work of a single wide trailer house. But that's where we started.
Man, I love that. I appreciate you saying that and bringing that up. I had it in my notes. I'm glad you brought that up because, when you're in that situation, you're living in a van and you're trying to rodeo and just find your way. How do you have the foresight to know I'm going to do this and I'm going to be successful? I'm going to start my own business because there's so many people right now listening to us or watching us that are where you were. And they want to get that shot. How did you change your mentality?
This is something I think back on all the time. And I'm not a man of the cloth or a preacher, but I believe in God. And I think that everything happens for a reason. And, I remember it was so hard, like thinking about not having a backup plan and like, what happens if I run out of money? What happens if like I have nowhere to go? And I feel like, the saying everything happens for a reason. That's what like kick started to like, I have no backup plan. And
yeah.
Advantage to a lot of entrepreneurs or people who, they have a good idea, but they're scared, maybe I won't make it. Maybe it won't, I feel like you have your eggs in too many baskets, you're never putting full force into anything, and I could be wrong, but for me, when I didn't have a backup plan, there was only one path, and that was, in my eyes, was to succeed. Because if I didn't, I was going to be sleeping on the gas station bench somewhere,
Right.
So,
I love that, man. I love that. Just knowing you had to make it,
yeah,
and you did it. And that's so cool, man. It's just grit.
It's a lot easier to encounter that as a young man rather than a full-size adult or, a mature adult that has a lot of bills and overhead. I mean, I didn't have, I had a cell phone bill and enough gas in I owned my gear bag. You know what I mean? I didn't, I didn't have a wife and kid counting on me or anything like that, or a big house payment, so I guess I lucked out there.
Well, I mean, it would have been easy to go the other way, not having that too, I mean, you could have very easily said, hey, I don't have any bills anyway, I'm just going to go play.
Sure.
But you didn't.
That's right.
That's really cool. So do you remember your first rodeo, whether it was roping or bull riding? Do you remember like pulling up to the first one, seeing the lights?
Oh man. I mean, as a little kid, I entered all the Little Britches rodeos, but my first IPRA rodeo as a permit holder, I remember it was East Lansing, Michigan. It's like 5-6 time indoor rodeo of the year or something. And I'd show up, I was just a pup, and I drew his name, it was Kung Fu Panda was his name, and he was the reigning bucking bull of the year. And
yeah, you started out right on top, didn't you?
I just remember like that first time, and it's a sold out crowd and the lights and the whole 9 yards, and the announcer doesn't pronounce your name right, like just all this stuff. And it's like, you've rode bulls your whole life, but you get to the first big one or whatever, and it's like, kind of a shell shock. I didn't ride him, if anybody was wondering.
But you got on, man. What a way to start, under the lights. That's cool, man. So you were in Little Britches as well.
Yep. So I wound up, I had a bunch of state titles and stuff. I won the bull riding every year I was in it, the goat tying, the breakaway roping, the team roping, the all around. I had a lot of Little Britches rodeos, and I mean, that's what learned me how to win and compete,
Yeah, they do such a great job with their leadership classes and everything else they do. And Papa Rodeo,
Good organization.
It really is. It really is. So let's talk goat roping. So you said you started goat roping. I started goat roping. Would you mind explaining what that's like?
So goat roping is basically, it's like team roping scaled down. So you have 2 guys afoot with kid ropes, and there's a goat and a chute. The one guy nods, the gate opens, and afoot, the guy heads the goat, ropes the neck of the goat, and turns him. And then another guy on foot comes in swinging and ropes the back feet, just like a team rope and run. And it's really neat. You do it in a little scaled down small arena, and everybody wants to compete and play in it. It's a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. So much fun. Yeah. And it's really cool, because it does help with the mechanics and getting, better and stronger. But it's just a lot of fun. It's such a social deal too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you don't $1,000 trailer and $20,000 horse to do it,
No, man, just a rope and a little try. I love it. I love it. So do you put any go ropings into your rodeos when you're going to produce?
No, that's something that we worked ourselves out of, but I'll never forget. That's really how the rodeo company started. Our real first productions were goat ropings, and the goat ropings transitioned into team ropings. And then I thought, well, gosh, if we're doing this, let's just go ahead and find some bulls and horses and have a full-on rodeo company. And so TK Pro Rodeo was born in Slick, Oklahoma, right after a goat roping.
See, I love that, man. I love that. And I think I read somewhere you put on your first rodeo in your living room.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I mean, I had all the toy rodeo bulls and horses and gates and panels. I mean, I probably put on 100 rodeos a year as a toddler. So
that's awesome, man. That's really cool. That's really cool. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about how you started your business, the entrepreneur side. Did you put a business plan together, and how did you go get those first horses and bulls and the first big truck?
Oh, yeah.
All the exciting part about putting the puzzle together. So we'll be right back on the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show with Tyler Kijac here in just 1 minute.
Scott will be right back with more.
Hi, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, heard on KCAA Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'd like to talk to you about something I'm very passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. In the morning, afternoon, and even late in the evening, I enjoy a good cup of coffee almost any time of the day. Now, my team at the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show has been working for several months on creating and introducing our own brand of coffee. We wanted to make sure that we got it just right. We don't want to put our name on anything unless we're 100% certain that it's the best product available, and we've finally done it. We have created a wonderful line of coffees, 13 fantastic flavors offered in whole bean, ground, and K-Cups, any way you like to brew your coffee. Now, each of our coffees carries our brand, the very same brand that we put on our horses, our trailers, and our chabs. So you know that this is a quality product. And we only use 100% Arabica beans, the very best beans available. Just listen to some of these wonderful blends and flavors. Jamaican Me Crazy, Honduran San Marcos, Chocolate Cherry Amaretto, Breakfast Blend, and my very favorite, Haley's Blend. A coffee so good, we named it after my daughter. You can order these coffees today by going online to javacowboy.com. That's javacowboy.com. And if you order today, you can get an extra 10% off your final purchase just by entering the promo code COWBOY on checkout. Remember, that's promo code COWBOY for an extra 10% off. Just go to javacowboy.com to order your coffee today. Hello, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I want to tell you about a product I've tried and I love, and I feel the Cowboy Entrepreneur audience will as well. It's Rebellious Infusions. Rebellious Infusions, they're little packets of flavor. And you know, it gets hot in South Texas, over 100 degrees every day. And I like my water, but it's water. So I use these infusions, put them in my water. It makes it cold. It's great flavor, 0 sugar, 0 calories. It's pure energy infusions. Rebellious Infusions. Go to drinkrebellious.com or on all social media platforms. Drink Rebellious. Welcome back to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen, with Tyler Kijac. He's the founder and president of TK Pro Rodeo. And we were talking goat roping, but I love this story. And Tyler, if you'll please share this with the audience on why you put on team rope or goat ropings. Why the importance of it?
Yeah, so a lot of people ask, how did you start the roping company? Why did you start the goat roping? Well, the truth was, when I moved to Click, Oklahoma, I was broke. I didn't have any furniture. I told you, I could see the concrete slab below the trailer house. And I did have these 2 saddle horses that I was trying to sell. And I wasn't having good luck selling them. I was posting them online, and I couldn't get people to come and buy them. They were rope horses, and I thought, how can I sell these horses? That was kind of my business plan to, pay the bills. I was going to sell some horses, and I couldn't get them sold. And I thought, they're too good looking and pretty looking not to sell. I just need to get them in front of the right people. But I didn't know how. And I was driving down the road, and I looked out the passenger side window, and there was a whole flock of goats, just a whole herd of these goats. And I thought, man, what if I had a goat roping, and while all these ropers, I'm bringing the people I'm trying to sell these horses to my place. And I'm going to suddenly have these horses tied up in the background, slicked off, looking good. By the end of the night, surely I'll sell 1 horse. Or if nothing else, I'll get some leads. And so I spent all the money that I had framing up. The goat roping arena was atrocious, that first one we had. Cattle, plywood, and I built this goat roping arena. I'm like, well, now I need the goats. So I stopped at that place. I knocked on the door, an old lady answered the door, and I said, hey, I'd really like to see about leasing some goats. Of course, I didn't have the money to buy them. I was going to try to lease them, and I was hoping to pay the lease after the roping because I sure didn't have it up front. And well, I don't own them. The man that does, his name's Pecos McNeil. And Pecos McNeil was instrumental in my success still to this day, but I didn't know it at the time. She said, here's the man's number, call him and see if you can lease him. So I called the guy, knowing no idea who this guy is. I think he just owns some goats. He turns out to be one of the biggest cattle starter in the country, huge broodmare program. He's a big-time cowboy, and back over there. And I said, hey, I'm wanting to lease some goats for a goat roping to sell some horses. And he says, he repeats it back. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I need goats to rope, and I'm going to try to sell some horses. And he said, okay. He asked a couple of questions about it. I said, I don't have the money to pay you up front, but I'll give you my word I'll pay you afterwards. He says, I tell you what, you go over there, anything that you can gather, you can take to the roping and rope, and you call me the next day and we'll go over it. So I did. I spent the last money I had getting fuel to get the goats and putting the flyers around town and stuff for this goat roping, not knowing if a single soul was going to show up that night. And by gosh, when the goat roping was supposed to start, we had hundreds of teams. I sold both horses that we had for sale, and I thought, I think we're on to something here, I quit selling the horses and just kept putting the goat ropings on because they made more money than the two horses put together that I sold. And so, of course, the next day that Pecos McNeil calls me, right 7 in the morning. Well, how'd the goat roping go? I said, great. He said, did you sell them horses? I said, I sure did. He said, I'll be damned. He couldn't believe it. And so we hit it off as friends, and I started day working and starting cattle for him and riding some horses for him. And he had a big network of people that he introduced me to early on.
How great is that? I love that story, man. I love the grit there. And I love how he took a shot with you, and being someone like that, I'm sure he couldn't wait to be 7 o'clock in the morning to call you to see how you did. Because everybody's been in that spot, and I'm sure he was rooting for you all night.
Oh, yeah. I still, to this day, I don't think he thought it was going to work, but I just as shocked as him, really. But
oh man, how cool! So, what did you think when you saw so many people showing up to rope at it? Did you think, oh my goodness, you went from one thing with not anyone showing up to now everybody's showing up? It's a different set of problems.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, after the 30th car's pulling in, the 40th car, the 50th car, well, gosh, I didn't think I don't know where to park everybody, and they just kept showing up, and I thought, man, I think this goat roping deal, and money is transferring hands up there at the entry booth. I thought, I think we're on to something here.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So as you started to grow TK Pro Rodeo, and you started to get the bigger trucks, and you're getting, how did you start your business plan to put that in motion to advance, from the goat
that
roping?
First year that we really started putting on ropings, we had a full year of goat roping behind us, and I thought, and I was still competing. I was in the top 15 in the world now during the bull riding, and I was like, man, it would really be nice to have some secondary income and have some rodeos. And so the very first year I had it was a 1999 Ford truck and a 28 by 6 pipe trailer that we rattle canned brown. And I didn't own any cattle. I leased my roping steers and was having some jackpots. And so I bought a handful of bulls with that Pecos McNeil. He went in partners on that first group of bulls with me, and we subleased all the other stock out. We had guys bring calves that day, and I subbed all the trucking out. I didn't have any means or way to get the cattle or anything there. And nobody would hire us. No committee was paying us to come do the rodeo. We were leasing.
Wow.
So, that's we started with no trucks, no semis, no big trailers, so it didn't start TK professional like, it started, let's just get the rodeos that we can and go from there. But, the first semi that I bought was a guy named Matt McGee in Waycross, Georgia. I bought a 40-foot pipe trailer that went with it, and I thought, man, I'm big timing now, you know.
Yeah, man.
I remember that first purchase, you know, of course we had a line of credit on it, and I just remember how proud I was of that dang semi. And looking back, it was just kind of a cobbed up semi that we were pulling a pipe trailer with, you know.
But man, it's your first one. That's big, you know. And so when you put the puzzle together, did you say, I need to go get one big truck, one small trailer? How did you, or was it, hey, we need this to go to the rodeo, let's go get this? Was it more of a plan, or was it more whenever the opportunity arose?
So, you know, something that to this day in my business plan, I think that I'm doing that nobody else in my sector, meaning like the 4-state area putting on Acura rodeos, we're selling what I call the sizzle. I consider myself more of a showman than just a stock contractor. You know, there's a lot of guys that I feel like, you know, they put on the rodeo and their only concern is the contestants. You know, they don't care about the flair and the pizzazz. But to me, like, just because they're not PRCA rodeos, professional rodeo cowboys rodeos, doesn't mean that they should be treated amateurly. You know, we can put a professional rodeo on, whether it's an open rodeo or a sanctioned rodeo or wherever it is. And so, yeah, there was always a plan in place. You know, it was really more about the more stock that we start owning, the bigger trucks and the bigger trailers we're needing. So I kind of kept that in balance where today we own everything. You know, we own the horses, the bulls, the steers, and the calves. And the reason is, you know, when we were subleasing them, we couldn't control the quality. You know, we were really, whoever we're leasing them from is mercy. You know, if the calves showed up and they're a little sick or they're a little too small or big, you know, we couldn't control it.
Right. Well, I like how you control it now. That's everything, you know, because you can't sell something. It's hard to sell something if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I love what you said about selling the sizzle, too, because I think it's important for our industry to get new viewers in and get people wanting to watch, because you never know where that new person is going to take hold and want to be the next Tyler Kijac, you know? And I think with that sizzle, we're going to get other people watching our sport and learning about our heritage.
Sure.
But it's a fine line, you know? You got to keep that tradition.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to bring them in. So how do you do that? That's a tough deal.
You know, I mean, I feel like you could answer it 5 or 6 ways differently, and they're all probably right. You know, I mean, the idea of rodeo today, in my opinion, is keep Western heritage alive. I mean, not to sound cheesy or cliche, but that's the idea of it. I mean, we're trying to bring new followers and lovers of the sport in, and it's a lot easier to cram it in a 2-hour performance than to individually give someone a ranch tour of the TK Ranch. You know?
Right.
And you can see a lot more good stuff at a 2-hour performance than you could just driving around our place, you know.
Absolutely. I love that. So when you bought your first bull, do you remember watching your first bull go out and represent your name as your own?
You know, they say riding for the brand, and, you know, the brand is everything. When you really put your TK brand on something that, you know, you purchased with your hard-earned money, you know, you're proud of it. I mean, it's like anybody, you know, when you make that new purchase, you think yours is the greatest thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, you know, we thought really the best stock contractors around doing the best job. And then 2 years later, I look back at, you know, what we did, and I thought, gosh, we could have been better at X, Y, Z. And, you know, as I sit here today, I think, man, we've really come a long way. We're doing really good. You know, I'm going to look at this 2 years from now and say, man, I thought we were doing good. You know, but that's the progression of any business, I think.
Yeah, it's a great progression, you know, is to always try and be better and then recognize where you can be, for sure, you know. And so do you remember, so what was your first rodeo, like with your stock, your name was on it? Do you remember that? I mean, was that, I know it was a highlight part of your business, but what was that like?
You know, I wouldn't term high like real firm.
It was just a part of.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool to look back. It's a neat milestone. But gosh, that first one we did, it was in Sapulpa, Oklahoma. It was the week before the IFR, so it's like the first week of January. I think it was spitting snow and sleet and ice. The barn's not insulated. Tons of contestants. A lot of people came out to support us, so we were there forever in the cold, and it wasn't a crowd. There wasn't, nobody showed up to really watch. But we got through that first performance, and I learned more in that 2-hour performance than I did the entire time I was at college. I learned a lot from that first unsuccessful event, I would say.
Oh man, that's awesome, man. Things like that just make you tougher in your business mind, but also in your personal side. You learn that grit, and you still did it even if it was sleeting and snowing, and it helps with that building process.
Oh yeah, without.
So how do you scale your business? Like, we have different business owners on the show, and how are you scaling it, getting bigger while still keeping that same consistent quality?
So that, there's a couple options in place that we have. I really feel like the 5-state area we have, it's really easy to control. But, with any business, they say when you get comfortable, that means you're not growing,
Right.
The next big step is probably to take our events to the Coliseums in the winter months. In the summer months, there's committees and fairs and festivals that they hire us to come in and do these events. And then in the winter, like, for instance, like the whole month of December, we're really fixing up the ranch and doing ranch projects and processing calves. And, it's kind of the downtime for us where, if we had a couple Coliseums that we were, hauling dirt into on top of a hockey arena or a basketball court and bringing the rodeo to the big city, that's really the next scalable move, in my opinion.
Very cool. Very cool. I love that, man. I love that. And it's going to keep you busy too. That's a totally different deal. Like you say, hauling in dirt, and it's a different deal.
Think of, and we have a couple. I call them building deals. They're not Coliseum deals, but we're doing them in towns that have a permanent rodeo arena outside, and we're going into like gymnasiums or ag buildings. And people are like, why would you do that when there's an arena outside? And I think that we sell as many or more tickets doing rodeos in buildings that don't have rodeos. And I think a lot of people want to see just how did you even do that?
Yeah.
But maybe you want to bring dirt and stuff into a climate controlled heated building and do this event in the winter. But we found a lot of there's not as much to compete with. There's not as many events going on in the winter, and so a lot of people come.
That's awesome, man. I love that, because why would they do something else outside when it's that cold? When you control the heat and the environment, you just take in the dirt and the panels, and
that's right.
Then you get to put on the show. I love that, man. Well, when we come back from break, golly, this show is just flying by. I want to talk a little bit more about, changes in rodeo. What do you foresee, and up and coming contestants, and also talk a little bit about the Ultimate Cowboy and some of your other stuff you're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm enjoying this so much. And we'll be right back on the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show with Tyler Kijac.
Thank you for listening to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Scott will be right back with more. For more information on Scott Knudsen, the Cowboy Entrepreneur, visit us online at cowboyentrepreneur.com.
Hi, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, heard on KCAA Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'd like to talk to you about something I'm very passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. In the morning, afternoon, and even late in the evening, I enjoy a good cup of coffee almost any time of the day. Now, my team at the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show has been working for several months on creating and introducing our own brand of coffee. We wanted to make sure that we got it just right. We don't want to put our name on anything unless we're 100% certain that it's the best product available, and we've finally done it. We have created a wonderful line of coffees, 13 fantastic flavors offered in whole bean, ground, and K-cups. Any way you like to brew your coffee. Now, each of our coffees carries our brand, the very same brand that we put on our horses, our trailers, and our chaps. So you know that this is a quality product. And we only use 100% Arabica beans, the very best beans available. Just listen to some of these wonderful blends and flavors. Jamaican Me Crazy, Honduran San Marcos, Chocolate Cherry Amaretto, Breakfast Blend, and my very favorite, Haley's Blend. A coffee so good, we named it after my daughter. You can order these coffees today by going online to javacowboy.com. That's javacowboy.com. And if you order today, you can get an extra 10% off your final purchase just by entering the promo code COWBOY on checkout. Remember, that's promo code COWBOY for an extra 10% off. Just go to javacowboy.com to order your coffee today. Hello, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I want to tell you about a product I've tried and I love, and I feel the Cowboy Entrepreneur audience will as well. It's Rebellious Infusions. Rebellious Infusions, they are little packets of flavor. And you know, it gets hot in South Texas, over 100 degrees every day. And I like my water, but it's water. So I use these infusions, put them in my water. It makes it cold. It's great flavor, zero sugar, zero calories. It's pure energy infusions. Rebellious Infusions. Go to drinkrebellious.com or on all social media platforms. Drink Rebellious. Hello and welcome back to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen, with Tyler Kijac, founder and president of TK Pro Rodeo. Please look them up on their website, TK Pro Rodeo, and on their social media. Man, there's some great behind-the-scenes pictures and videos, and see what they're up to. It's a great social media, Facebook pages to follow. And Tyler, thanks for what you're doing for the industry. And now let's talk a little bit about rodeo. Where do you foresee rodeo going?
You know, I think there's only one way, for it to go. I think it's going to continue to grow, and as the cities start closing in on the country, the cities are getting bigger and bigger. But I think that's just going to feed the rodeo's need, really. I think bigger.
Yeah, I do too, and I see a lot of people that never grew up in dirt, that are now in rodeo or love rodeo, which is exciting.
I agree.
Yeah, so growing up in Michigan, what was, you wouldn't think, a lot of people don't see Michigan, there's a lot of rodeos and cowboys, but there is, and I appreciate you saying that. But I think it's across the country, that's what's exciting.
Yeah. No, people don't hear Michigan and think that there's a lot of rodeo there. There's a lot of rodeo there. There's not as much ranching as you'd think, and I think it's because there's, the soil is worth so much there. It's conglomerated up with farmers and stuff like that, and a lot of dairies. We're down here, and doesn't, the grass isn't as good down here. And so the land is a little bit cheaper, and there's big wide open spaces for guys to start calves, and that's kind of where you run into the need for a cowboy. I think that's why it's cowboy country here.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the ultimate cowboy. So with Trace Adkins. So how did they find you, or did you find them? How'd that work out?
Well, I had kind of an inside leg. I had a friend that was on the season before me, Cody Brewer, and he was a bull rider, and we went all over Canada together, and he made the IFR most of the years that I was there. And, he competed on the first season, and he told the producers about me, and of course, they reached out, and I got to make my debut on season 2.
That's very cool. So you were on a couple of years, and then you became a producer, is that right?
Yeah, so, I was on season 2, and then, I was a finalist. I didn't win the show, but I got to be a finalist, and I made good friends with, Cash Myers and Buddy, the judges, and Trace, and all the producers. We all really hit it off and found some common ground where we all, got along good, and they asked if I would come back for season 3 as a producer. And so I designed the challenges, I helped give interviews, logistics and stuff like that. And, that was really neat, getting to see the behind the scenes of a Hollywood production company, trying to fit our way of life into an hour-long episodes, 10 episodes at an hour long. So much goes on behind the scenes to make that stuff happen, and right. Editing and making stuff fake, but just being able to tell the real story and be able to film them challenges is extremely difficult.
What surprised you about that? About putting on the show, maybe behind the scenes part?
I think just the amount of planning and production that truly goes into catching someone roping a cow in the pasture and tying it down, and being able to catch that on video without, seeing cameras and having to say, you have to rope the cow right here. There's a lot of stuff planning and stuff that goes into capturing that stuff.
Wow, that's so cool, man. Well, do you think, I'm thinking, it would help, but, we were just talking in the second part of the show about the sizzle for rodeo, and you're seeing it on the TV side, how to make that production stronger. Do you think some of that's going to translate into your production, your rodeo production?
Absolutely. Those guys are so much further ahead than I was at, being able to see the next step and placing a camera there to capture it and stuff like that. And anybody who's in my line of work that would see that stuff and not utilize it, they're dropping the ball, because those guys are so sharp on that. And I feel like that whole way of life, that's why I see rodeo getting bigger too. If everybody could come together, rodeo could be so much more interesting.
Absolutely.
About the behind the scenes, if you could get a production company like that would follow us around the ranch one time and see really what it's like to raise these horses and bulls. We've been fortunate enough to win Buck and Horse of the Year the last 2 years and Buck and Bull of the Year the last 4, all with different animals. All the PETA people and the animal rights activists, I just feel like they're misinformed. And if they had a glimpse into our life, that they would walk away from the TK Ranch and go, gosh, that horse lives like a king, don't he?
I love that, man. I love that, and I appreciate you saying that, the way we take care of our animals, and I mean, they're family, it's the way we make our living, and you do in your way and I do in my way, but it's everything, to take care of them. And it's almost like you were saying, the old stock contractors, when you rodeoed, you watched them to see how they put on the rodeo. Now you're watching these production guys for TV and you're seeing how to put the sizzle in your rodeo.
That's right.
It's neat, the advancement. That's really cool. So let's talk about your other show, Guts and Glory.
Yeah.
And what is that about? Where can people find that?
So that was, I'm sure it's the rerun plan by now maybe, but, it was on INSP as well. And it was giving one lucky contestant a shot at $1 million at the American Rodeo. You don't have to necessarily be a rodeo fan to have heard about the American. It's the largest one-day payout in the history of the sport. And so that was a really neat show, and the host there was J.B. Mooney, and so he gave kind of a really gritty feel to it. It was all or nothing. Second place don't pay nothing, first or nothing.
Yeah, and he's right. He's absolutely right. Yeah, and and I think that was another show that did a lot for the industry. The American's so important. It's bringing new fans into it because of the money. It's great for the cowboys and cowgirls, but I think the new fans, they see $1 million and the TV and the big dome in Dallas, it creates some excitement.
Sure. And I think that it's been good, and I don't think that we're quite there yet, but, you look at like Patrick Mahomes, what's that guy getting paid to throw that football, or, what was Kobe Bryant's last signing contract? Like, them guys are making multiple millions. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars. And so I'm looking forward to the day that the rodeo cowboy is on level playing field there, because they're just as much as everybody else.
Absolutely. They're the elite athletes, when you're riding at that level. And it also helps inspire people that are just starting out to want to get to that level, to have that many zeros on the check, So let's talk about some of your partners, some that help you get down the road. I think for me, this is important because what they do for the Western industry and what you do is so valuable. But let's talk about some of your partners. Would you mind kind of going in? I know it started with Dr. Anderson.
You're 100% right. I mean, Harry Anderson, he's been with me when I was putting on goat roping, so I'm glad that we're still a part of Team Total Feeds there. Curtis and Sheila Chandler, they've been instrumental. They're partners on a lot of horses and bulls that we have. The Buck and Horse of the Year last year, they were on the ticket there for them. Most of our partners now, they're more like family than it started as a business relationship, but all of them have pretty well developed into family. But those kind of people like that, they only come along, once in a lifetime, and that's really what takes you to the next level, I feel like. But
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you see more and more sponsors, more and more partners getting into the industry, as far as maybe tire companies and different people that maybe we didn't think about 10 years ago?
Well, I feel like there's just such a platform, in a day's age today where everybody has, their phone in their hand and stuff like that. At my rodeos for 2 hours, I have a sold out crowd's attention. They're eating out of our hand. You know what I mean? When we say that we're feeding the course of the year total feeds, number one, it's the truth. And number two, they believe it. You know what I mean? Got their attention. It's a lot better than a radio ad. Nobody turns, the radio on as much as they did before, but, real interactions in person, I feel like is where the marketing should be. And, that and social media,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you said that because, when you're telling the crowd this and he's winning the Bucking Horse of the Year, but when they are on Facebook and they look up TK Pro Rodeo and they see you feeding that horse total feeds.
That's right.
But it's our culture too. We do what we say and for sure. But it's good to have the video part of it just because it's just more buy-in.
Well, and we've had a lot of really cool iconic brands. I wore Wrangler before Wrangler, was on our team. But, I'm proud to say that, Wrangler's a huge partner of ours. Ford trucks, if you guys are going to drive a good truck, go buy a Ford. They're luxury trucks,
Yeah, they are.
Dewey's bale beds, Max Steel. If you guys are looking for some equipment, Max Steel can get you fixed up, whether it's a bale feeder or a rope and shoot. They can do it. There's such a need for it, in the industry, and so I would love for some more partners to want to get involved, not necessarily just with me, but with anybody in the industry.
Well, it helps our industry. It helps those rodeo guys, the contestants as far as with payouts, but the rodeo itself just funnels down to so many other people in the jobs.
Yeah.
So it really is pulling a heavy weight for sure. All that matters for sure. So what do you see? Let's talk contestants. We've talked a little bit about being kind of scattered across the country. What do you see in your rodeos? Are you seeing more agricultural kids still? Or are you seeing more of the maybe grew up in the city? Maybe never ridden before.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more. It's sad. I feel like, and I'm not old enough to be able to say, the last generation, these kids today aren't as tough as the generations before. But I'm seeing a lot of teenage to early 20-year-old guys that they want to be in this sport, but they don't know how, and it can be so intimidating. Where like basketball, it'd be pretty simple to go and figure out how to get on a team around you, or play high school basketball. But
right.
Or to just try to pop into and say, I don't know anything about it. I don't know what gear I need. I don't know where to go. I know it's really dangerous or can be dangerous. I want to be a part of it. It's an intimidating, overwhelming sport to want to be a part of. And I feel like there needs to be an easier avenue to these schools and these clinics to get kids and parents involved, And I think the younger they are, the better advantage you have, but there's no better time than now.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think the on-ramp into not only rodeo, but to the Western industry is tough. It's for so long it was generational, and you just kind of grew up in it, and it was part of it, which is awesome. But we need other people too. We need to keep growing, just like your business. Just like my business is part of it, and we got to have the on-ramp where it's easy. There's a path, whether it's internship or whatever it is to get there. Because basketball, you can get picked up and go do something.
That's right.
But go ride bulls for a living. It's a different.
Yeah, they sell basketball at every Walmart in the country. They don't sell a rope or a bull rope. At any of them.
Yeah, we got to change that.
I'm going to talk to whoever's in charge of Walmart.
Yeah, go see Walton. Go tell him, hang some ropes up, man. Do something. Goodness gracious. So what's next for you? I know we got the holidays coming up, and in January we're back on the road. So what do you do as the owner of a company, a rodeo stock contracting company?
Right now is maintenance and equipment, taking care of the stock that has made the rodeo company successful. A lot of relationship stuff right now and logistics for next year. Getting the personnel hired, the correct announcer, clown, bullfighters, pickup men, judges, arena crew for 30 plus rodeos next year. A lot of phone calls, and then enjoying the holidays with my family.
I love that, man. And I know you kind of glossed over it. You said over 30. When you figure there's only 52 weeks, man, that's really keeping you on the road and a busy schedule, man. But what a blessing.
Fortunate.
Absolutely. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for being on the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I appreciate your stories. I appreciate what you and the company's doing for the Western sports and man, continued success.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for watching and listening to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show.
Thank you to all the great sponsors of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. If you or your business is interested in being a sponsor of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, please call our office at 830-992-1786 or visit our website, cowboyentrepreneur.com.
KCAA is your CNBC News affiliate. We're the station that gets down to business.
This segment is sponsored by Press Print Southern California.